does the black man serve the white man? Why does everything the black man do benefit the white man? Why does the black man say freedom is doing what I want to do? And why is it that everything he wants to do enriches the European?
Welcome to the desert of the real.
Peace, everybody. This your brother, Mr. Holipsism. Here, um, slightly annoyed. What else is new? You know, I had a really wonderful time when I went to Rwanda, and it was like a real moment of clarity for me. And it's not as if, you know, my philosophy has changed or it was any different. It's just that it was more solidified after I left Rwanda. And to be in a nation where you can see people taking care of their own business and building their own roads and highways and giving them, like controlling their own power supply and their electricity and their gas and running the business of government and all this other stuff and seeing nothing but black faces, seeing the people protected by a police force military presence that wasn't oppressive, where I felt comfortable. My cousin was talking about it. I was with him yesterday, and we was talking about the fact that he just felt so comfortable walking around Rwanda at all types of ungodly hours. Like we was walking there at 3, 4 in the morning with no fear that somebody was going to do something to us. And then I come back to this shithole called America. And I have to say, of all the demographics of people that I can't fucking stand, the ones that's probably jumped through they've leapfrogged over the Captain America Negro, they've leapfrogged over the militant integrationists, and they've leapfrogged over the Black Power American, is these fucking Pan-Africanists. I can't stand these motherfuckers. They are the reason why we are in the shape we are in as a people today. They are the reason. I can't even blame the militant integrationists and the Black Power American, although I ain't no fans of theirs. But this Pan-African bullshit, these motherfuckers, god damn. You talk about people that speak out of both sides of their mouth. You got all these motherfuckers online with the name Marcus Mosiah Garvey in their name, the names of Malcolm X in their name, Amos Wilson, John Henry Clark, all of these nationalists. Yet when you ask them, should black people have a country, a nation on the continent of Africa? Oh, that's ridiculous. You're trying to separate yourself from the continent. That's what they say. You're trying to separate yourself from the continent. So then I turn around and I say, well, so according to your logic, every country that's in Africa is separating themselves from the continent, right? By virtue of their mere existence, they're separating themselves. Then another person, I made the statement on Twitter where I say, so having your own nation is bullshitting, but living under someone else's socio-economic and political infrastructure, that's building. And so the guy replied with, if you think it's someone else, that's a part of the problem. And I said, motherfucker, we all agree that we're African people. That's not what the issue is, you fucking moron. Do all of these countries have a process for citizenship, or do you just become a citizen by virtue of the fact that you're black? See, these guys, God, I can't stand these myopic thinking motherfuckers. It's like everything, first of all, they don't even realize what they're saying. If you say that the African American and African diasporan cannot have a nation state of their own on the continent, because the mere existence of that would be divisive, then what you're basically saying is that African Americans and African diasporans are not real Africans. Because your assumption is that we're going to come over here and destroy the continent with our Western ways. But yet, you don't have a problem with the Russians having a piece of the continent. You ain't got a problem with the Chinese having a piece of the continent. They can come over there with their Russian ways and their Chinese ways, and if anything, you'll teach your children their language. You ain't got no fucking problem with them. But for some reason, if the African American and the African diasporan wants to have a piece of the continent so that they can have their own interpretation of how reality is on the continent, then all of a sudden it's a fucking problem. And this is coming from Pan-Afrikans, or pan-africanists, or whatever you want to call them. The people that claim, the people that got Africa all up in their brand. And then one of the motherfuckers actually said, black people need to divorce themselves from America. Really? How are you going to divorce yourself from America when you want to have your power base inside of America? And if we suggest having it on the continent, you say that that's lunacy. Here's another thing. This is another argument that I get from these so-called Pan-Africanists. There's no land in Africa. If you come to Africa, you got to displace this person. You got to come over. Why do African... Let me ask you a question. What have people been talking about for the last few months? Oh, the Chinese are coming to Africa. The Chinese are taking over. How can you take over Africa if there's no land? Didn't you just get through telling me that there's no land in Africa? So what land are the Chinese going to take over? It's called talking out of both sides of your fucking myopic, uneducated ass. These guys are fucking morons. And I swear to you, man, it didn't take long for me to get annoyed coming back from the continent. You figure coming back from the continent and I'd be on a high? Yeah, that high lasted for approximately about a week before motherfuckers started irritating me with their bullshit. And what really irritates me is that motherfuckers listen to them. You actually listen to these motherfuckers as if they have a valid point. If you want to get the right answers, you got to ask the right questions. Everybody always come to me talking about, oh, this one is real. This person is the truth. And da 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 da. And then all of that shit comes crashing down when you simply ask the right question. And you know what the right question is? Do African Americans and African diasporans deserve to have a nation state of their own on the continent of our ancestors? Yes or no? That exposes all the black talking point bullshit, all the black facade, and it breaks it right down to the simple thing. No, the majority of these people don't believe that we should have socioeconomic and political control over our environment. What they want is for us to be cogs in the wheel of somebody else's reality. And I don't give a shit whether it's white people or Africans on the continent. And keep in mind, I'm not against individuals doing business with countries on the continent. As a matter of fact, I'm one of the biggest advocates for Rwanda. So you can't pull that crap on me like I'm against that. I'm not. But when are we going to start thinking as a fucking collective? When are we going to establish a power base for our people? Because if we don't do that, then the logical thing is for people to, as individuals, to connect with whatever African country you can and build up your business and try. But that's individual bullshit. Once again, when are we going to start thinking as a collective? That's my problem. Because I can, as an individual, me and my cousin we already got our spot in Rwanda that we want to buy and purchase and be over there. So that takes care of me personally. But what about our fucking people as a whole? Or is that we just going to forget about that? Well, basically, it should not shock you, because isn't that what they did with the reparations movement? They took the reparations movement, and instead of making it something about rebuilding or repairing our nation, what is it about? Give me the check. Cut the check for individuals. Listen. I've been in this shit for a long time, man. I should have actually been retired about 5 years ago from this whole conscious community, this whole nationhood consciousness bullshit. I should have retired from this shit 5 years ago. But let me just give a message to the people, the young people that's coming up in this, the young people who got the passion and the energy and the vigor. At some fucking point, we're going to have to organize collectively as a people. At some point, because this is not going to work. It may work for a few individuals, but it ain't going to work for the collective. And at some point, we got to think about the collective of African people here in America and African people throughout the diaspora. And the fact that we do not have a land base. We don't have a base of operations, a socio-economic and political base where we can control policy on that piece of land and that piece of territory. Until we do that, all we are going to be is just empowering and helping somebody else. And if you're satisfied with never having any power, but you satisfied because, well, at least, I can empower another African country. Well, more power to you. More power to you. Me personally, I think that we need to start thinking about establishing a power base for African Americans and African diaspora so that we can come to the table with something besides looking like we got our hat in the hand or begging people. Because that's another thing. They think that if we come into the continent, we come in with a hat in our hand and we asking for a handout. Nobody, none of these Pan-African Negroes, they're so, like I said, so myopic in their thinking that they don't, the concept of mutually beneficial interest never even occurred to them. That black people here in America and in the diaspora are bringing something to the fucking table that Africans on the continent can benefit from. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. Nobody's segregating the continent. No more than Nigeria is segregating the continent when they say, listen, you got to get citizenship. You can't just come up, roll up in here in our country. And I don't have a problem with that. That makes perfect fucking sense. Same thing with Rwanda. There's a process for citizenship. Same thing with Ghana. There's a process for citizenship. Not just, yo, I'm black, let me in. I don't propose that. I don't endorse that, because if we had our own nation, we wouldn't be doing that shit. But you see, that's the problem. Everything makes perfect sense when it comes to them and other people, but it makes absolutely no sense when it comes to us. So Nigeria, Senegal, Ghana, Rwanda, all these countries can have, Tanzania, all of these countries can have their own governments and their own process for citizenship, and nobody calls it divisive. But if the African American or the African diasporan wants to go to the continent and establish a nation state and a base of operations, socio-economic and political base for our people, we're being divisive by our mere existence. That's what you call bullshit. And if that's the philosophy that you people want to follow, good, follow them. But for the people that got some fucking sense, realize not everybody wants us to have our own political economic base. Our own social, economic, and political base. Not a lot of people, black, white, or anybody else, wants to have it. Not even Pan-Africanists want us to have our own. And the motherfuckers talking about, oh, how you gonna transport 40, 50 million people over to the continent? 40, 50 million people? Motherfucker, we can't even get 1% of our people to say that we should have a nation of our own. But anyway, things are going to be taken care of for me on a personal level. I can do all of this stuff on a personal level. I can go to Rwanda. I can talk to real estate developers. I can purchase land. I can form businesses. Me and my cousin and a few of our people are already talking about that. And that helps us on a personal level. But what the fuck are we going to do collectively here in this country? Or are we just saying fuck our people in this country? Because I'm not one of those people. I'm not saying fuck all black people in America. What I'm saying is, when are we going to establish something, a power base for our people so that they can have an option two, a plan B, instead of just being perpetual second and third class citizens in this shithole of a country called America? That's it for my rant. I don't know if I even made any sense, but if I did, somebody comment. Y'all let me know. If I didn't, let me know too, and whatever. I'll holler at you good people later. Peace.
You can't compare to the status right here. Legendary worldwide, we can battle right here. Listen, Junior, I'ma tear back your wig. This ain't TV, but I'll show you what a fear factor is. Stop grilling me, and all that fronting is killing me. You leave me no choice but to hurt your feelings, G.
About to slap rappers around and bruise the game.